Welcome to another WinBidPro video for GDS estimating software. And this is the third of the first time using WinBidPro little series. And we've already entered an elevation. We've talked about the menu tree and some of the other drawing tools and use them here. So let's go on to creating another elevation in this job we already have. There's a few ways to do that. I can actually go to elevations and click the add new button. I can click this drop down and hit create new, or I can just hit next elevation. So for this one, let's just call it east side corner. And I'm going to show you how to put a corner post in. So something to keep in mind is I can pick the same frame I used in the previous elevation, or I can even pick the original frame from the catalog. And the difference would be if I made changes to this previous elevation's framing system. So I might have changed a sill or a vertical or something. And if I wanted to pick that up, I would continue using that same those same changes in this new elevation. Or if I didn't want those changes, I go back to the catalog. And then another option is we can hit select frame and pick a whole nother framing system. So I could say I need a shear block that's 2-inch inside glazed, open back mullion, and all that for this next elevation. So now it brings us to where we start entering the values, and we're going to leave the quantity at 1. We're going to tell it there's 3 panels and that the width is, let's just say 141.25 inches, and the height is 120. So now you'll notice that there's no cock joints here. So I'm going to put the cock joints in again, just make some up at this point. And then it's going to draw them in for me. But if I want to make it so that those cock joints are always there when I create a new elevation with a framing system I've selected, I'm going to want to go to the master framing system list and edit the framing system there. So right here, I know that I picked number 17 for this new elevation. So I'm going to go to frame ID 17, and I'm going to pick the first one there, and I'm going to edit it. And you'll notice that those values are still 0. It's because I made the changes in the elevation framing system. So those are independent of the master framing system. So now that I've made the changes in the master, I can save those, and any new elevation I create using that system 17 now, it's going to bring those changes in with it. So that's how you do that. I could have changed anything there, whether it was profiles or part numbers or anything, but I just changed the cock joints. So I mentioned that we're doing a corner here. So let's say this right wall jamb is actually a corner. And that would mean we have to do 2 elevations. One is the corner here. Another option is we could actually draw it in one plane and say there's a corner right here in this vertical. But then we don't really have the plan view for that, so it would make it look like it's one elevation still. So I kind of like to do the corner post as 2 elevations. So that's what we call the alternate vertical. So an alternate vertical, I click that tab and I hit add, and I want to select the vertical. And we're just counting starting with 0 for some odd reason, but the left wall jamb is always 0. The right wall jamb is always equal to the number of panels. So it's vertical number 3 for the right wall jamb, and I am going to tell it it's a 4-inch corner post. So I'm going to add that to the drawing, but first I need to tell it what part numbers I need to use. So I'm going to make sure the cursor is in there, and then I'm going to click there, and I can use my filter if I don't know the corner post part number, if I don't have my catalog in front of me. So I'm just going to pick any old thing right now and insert the part. Now if there's multiple parts required, which there usually are, I would insert all the parts that are needed for that new corner post. So I hit OK on that, and it shows me that I've added a 4-inch profile alternate vertical at number 3. It also shows me on the drawing with an orange line that it's something different. But we also know that it's 4 inches by the profile it drew. So I would want my next elevation Like, let's go ahead and add glass real quick. It's going to automatically remember what glass we used in the previous elevation. If there was a mix of glass used, it's obviously just going to go to one of them. So you might have to find the other glass again. But let's go ahead and quickly add the glass. And then we're going to go back and add the next elevation that belongs to the corner. So this is, let's just call it south. Now I'm trying to think of my east and the right. Oh man. So let's call this one north. North window, other corner. Corner mate, we'll call it. So just to get the description right. So now I'm going to be picking up the same elevation I used, or same framing system I used in elevation number 2. You'll notice if I drop this list down, it's showing me a list, both the ones that are in use and the equivalents in the master framing system list. So I am going to stick with the one that it recommended, which was number 2, elevation number 2's framing system. So I'm going to quickly add the number of panels. Let's just say that's 3 panels also. And this width is going to be 125, and the height's going to be 120. So now we've already got our caulk joints there because it copied it from the second elevation. So now we're going to want to go straight to the exclude. So I put the corner post on the other one's right jamb, and on this one, if it's mating up to it, I'm going to say that the left jamb needs to be excluded. So I'm going to exclude the left jamb by clicking on it with my mouse. So when I click on it, I can zoom in if I need to with my little wheel on the mouse, and I can just click somewhere, usually the line of the vertical or the jamb or something you're clicking on. Like I can exclude anything, a sill, a headpiece, a vertical, you know, anything that's on the drawing, and it'll tell me what it is right here. So it's a wall jamb left, and I'm going to update the drawing, and you'll see right here that it's excluded by that. Now, the other thing I could do is I could add a 4-inch post, and I can exclude that. So there's different ways to do this, so keep that in mind. Because the exclude thing means it's not going to show up on the price list or on the optimized cut list. So now I'm going to want to add some glass to it just like I did before, and I can pick the same glass and add it by row or by elevation. So now let's say I've added all of my elevations. I've got 3 elevations, the main one, and then the 2 corner, the 2 elevations that make up the corner. So at that point, I've added my glass. I've done everything I need to do. I can look at my final parts report. So my final parts report is here. It shows all my material. There's separate videos that cover this report because there's a lot to it. So I can change multipliers. I can edit pricing. I can add prices manually. I can do a bunch of things to it, and I can just print it too. So I can print it in different formats with and without pricing. I can export it, so all those things can be done. And all that information is in the final parts reports videos. So I can also go to final glass. I can see my glass for the entire job. So it kind of combines it all and totals it up. And same thing with that. I can edit pricing. I can print reports with different formats, with and without pricing, and all that. So that's for glass. And then again, there's labor that I can calculate. Now, when it's time to actually fabricate the job is when I can go into the optimizer and print a cut list. So when I print my cut list, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to show me the part number, the description of that part, and then what the stock length is. And then for each stock length that's required for that part, in this case there's only one, it shows me actual lineal footage, average yield, and then the actual cut sizes for that stock length. So these cut sizes are showing the elevation code that we put in. So that tells me what it belongs to. And I might have forgotten to put the code in for the number 2 elevation. Oh well. So so that's what it does with the cut list. So I can export that for saw stops. I can just print it and hand it to someone in the shop. There's a lot of things to do. So there's different videos on this optimizer window because there's a lot you can do here too with adding parts that are outside of the elevations, adding stock links that were in inventory, things like that. So that gives you your basic reports. You can export them, as I mentioned. I can go to print reports and do variations of all these different material reports. There's a few different glass reports. There's a lineal optimization or a lineal part report that doesn't show optimization. It just shows actual lineal footage. I can even print labels out for cutting and for glass labeling. So all those things are available under print reports. And again, there's the markup where I can add my percentages and get my bottom line price. And those can be defaults, or I can just add them, every time I do a job. Usually the defaults you should start with, and then you can change it at the job level. So that's pretty much it. Labor, of course, you can do and include that in your markup report, or you can just enter a value, whatever the way you calculate labor. But there's different videos on how the labor works also. So you want to check those things out, and definitely there's a lot more things that are in depth and a lot of things we didn't cover in this drawing window. So you want to make sure you cover those videos. But the more you use the program, the better you'll get. That's definitely the case. So, and don't forget, you can contact us at support@gdsestimating.com or give us a call during our business hours. Thanks very much.